Hey, good day, everybody. I'm Steve Farrell, the co-founder and executive director of Humanities Team. I'm here with a very special guest. I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. Not sure if you can see him on camera, Justin Faerman. He's coming in live from Santa Barbara, California, a dear friend. Wow, really looking forward to this hour. Justin is one just super bright guy. I'm going to read his resume here in just a moment, but as we get started, first, just a shout out to everybody. So everybody with Humanities Team and those Humanities Stream Plus members that are part of this program in the viewing room, the Sign Network. So John Raymer and all of our friends that are out on the Sign Network on Facebook, big shout out to all of you. And Justin Faerman's, his websites. So, and this is Conscious Lifestyle Magazine, Flow Consciousness Institute, among others. So shout out to all of you. Thanks for being here. As you know, we come in live every Friday beginning at 11 a.m. Pacific. Real excited about today's program. The theme today is optimizing your expanded states of consciousness and flow. So a big, important topic. Now, let me give my special guest a proper introduction. Justin Faerman is the co-founder of the Flow Consciousness Institute and Conscious Lifestyle Magazine. He is a conscious entrepreneur, researcher, and international speaker who emphasizes the importance of flow in creating great shifts in consciousness. His work blends the worlds of clinical psychology, neurology, and spirituality to embrace total healing and growth throughout all aspects of our lives. Justin has two incredible programs on the Humanities Stream Plus platform. These are brand new programs to the platform. The 4 levels and 5 dimensions of healing, the keys to unlocking your full potential, and also how to optimize your brain and reality for expanded states of consciousness and flow. So big topics, brand new programs to the Humanities Stream Plus platform. And again, real excited to have Justin here with me. And I think you'll see him on screen here in just a moment. Or we might have lost, we lost our live connection. This is the thing about doing live programs, is you can lose a connection right in the middle. So Justin is down in sunny Santa Barbara, and I'm sure he's going to be coming back on here very shortly. So let me invite you to share your comments and questions on Facebook, or on, if you're in the viewing room on the screen. We're going to be able to get to your comments and questions during the hour. Also, if you're with Humanities Stream and you're in the member room, remember you're going to be able to come on camera and talk to Justin here in just a little bit. So be thinking about that. Don't be shy. It's fun when our Stream Plus members come on camera with their questions and comments and things. Here's Justin. Hey, Justin, welcome. Welcome to the program, man.
Hey, how's it going? Great to be here. A little glitch in the matrix there with the technology, but here we are.
Great. Yeah, no kidding. And Justin knows a thing or two about technology too, but during today's program, we're going to get to his expertise areas that have to do with these programs that he just put on the Humanities Stream Plus platform. So, Justin, I mentioned in this introduction for you that you co-founded the Flow Consciousness Institute and also Conscious Lifestyle Magazine. Now, these are two really important organizations. Do you want to talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the inspiration for both of them was, in my journey over the years, and my own personal development journey and my own spiritual journey, it became obvious to me that consciousness was really the most fundamental level that we can work on to shift the trajectory of humanity into something more akin to like a golden age or a renaissance compared to where we are now. And that, whatever challenges or problems we were experiencing in the world or in our own lives, that these always came back to, at the root level, when you traced back to the cause, it was some, distortion in our belief system or some trauma that we held in our system. And so that was really the inspiration for these two organizations, was to provide like the highest quality, research-backed, timeless pieces of wisdom and tools that we could offer to help people work at this deep level to really magnify and leverage the shifts that they're making, so that we can live in a world of flow, in a world of peace, harmony, abundance, all these qualities I think we really deeply crave for ourselves, but also collectively. And so, with the Flow Consciousness Institute, we do a lot of research. We develop training programs. We develop different modalities. We do a lot of speaking and teaching, and we deliver programs that help people to really, advance their personal development and accelerate their journey into unlocking their full potential on a lot of different levels. And then with the magazine, we're more media and content focused, where we basically bring together a curated group of top thought leaders and up and coming, thought leaders and teachers and doctors and researchers and so on, to share their deepest wisdom and their deepest learnings, so that people can just dive in and really get to the deepest stuff right off the bat, instead of having to search through endless levels of introductory content. We want people to really have juicy stuff there. So that's the inspiration behind these two.
Yeah, boy, let me invite viewers too to go to these sites. So Flow Consciousness Institute and then the Conscious Lifestyle Magazine. I was on both sites this morning. Impressive. You look at the contributors to the magazine. Wow, just a big wow. Some really just terrific thought leaders. And then this Flow Consciousness Institute, as you mentioned, just getting out this importance of flow. In fact, I want to even just talk a little bit about it, because I shared in your introduction, you emphasize the importance of flow in creating great shifts in consciousness. And I think I know what you mean by that. We talk about connection, that we have to, that we're kind of more in our heart space than in our head space, and with an open heart, and then in this place of connection with the one, which we can call the divine or universe, and then which the one means one, so it's all of humanity, all of life, the earth, etc. But how do you, when you talk about the importance of flow, what are things? How do you describe that, Justin?
Yeah, well, flow is kind of multifaceted, because you have flow states, which are these expanded states of consciousness and performance, where we feel our best, perform our best, enter into deep coherence with other people, our environment, and they're pretty incredible peaks, transcendental states of being. Sometimes we enter them through meditation, sometimes we enter them in creative discipline, or in our work, or just in a social event or something like that. And they're really amazing. And then flow consciousness, which is to use like Wilber's construct or framework, states and stages. Flow consciousness is more akin to the stage development side of flow. So this is, how do we bring that level of consciousness that I just described into our everyday experience, so that it's not just a temporary state of being that's this really awesome high, but then we kind of crash back down to our normal lives, and we're maybe they're not as great as we like. How do we have this incredible, deeply fulfilling, prosperous, abundant, elevating, spiritually elevating experience of life all the time? And you could make the equivalent that flow consciousness is like the Tao, right? In Taoist philosophy, it's the non-doing doing, the formless way. It's kind of this mystical state of being that we can actually, through very specific principles and practices, ground into our everyday life, and like literally live the meditation, such that every aspect of our lives becomes infinitely more fulfilling, infinitely better, infinitely more impactful, and all of these different things that are important to us, both personally and on a collective level, unfold naturally by way of how we're living. So Flow Conscious Institute, what we're doing there is really teaching people to live in flow throughout every moment of their lives, and reap all the benefits that come with that.
Yeah, boy. As I reflect back on my own journey, and where I was, I would say more unconscious, I was into philanthropic causes and things when I was an entrepreneur, and we did a fair amount of philanthropy, helping the local high school and other nonprofits and things when we were growing these technology businesses that I had. But and then of course I felt called to just join with you and all of these people all over the world that are doing this work, awakening and embodying consciousness, higher levels of consciousness. Now the big thing for me, as I reflect on those years and these years now, and even right in this very moment, is this exactly what you're talking about? It's this flow state thing where back then, I remember I did the Myers-Briggs, and I was the standard ENTJ, so that's a thinking kind of mind, where I was just constantly thinking, creating, whiteboarding, this is planning, strategizing, all this stuff. And now it's not like that at all. I mean, I'm not that there's anything wrong with getting near a whiteboard, but it's more of this feeling place. It's this place of connection. It's this place of flow. And that's the biggest thing where, and Nassim Faerman has this new unified field theory he's just in the process of unveiling, and which is so multifaceted. There's so many things that it gets into, but one of the things that it shares is that the field, which is this omniscience and omnipotence, that actually is within all of life at a cellular level. So explaining like claircognition and clairvoyance and things where we've had these experiences, but there hasn't been any science that says, now how did we have that experience? How did that work? And when we're in this place of flow and not just confined to our local brain, then what this science is saying, we actually do have access to the entirety of wisdom in the universe. It's astounding. So
Yeah,
I couldn't agree
absolutely.
more,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're good friends with Barbara, the late Barbara Marks Hubbard, and we had some awesome conversations about this, about, when we enter into a state of deeply connecting with our intuition and operating from that place, which is a big part of the spectrum of flow, whether it's flow states or flow consciousness, that we enter into like this unified state of consciousness that you're describing and Nassim describes with his theories and stuff, where whatever action we take from that place of deep intuition is like the most optimal action that keeps us in perfect balance with the totality of the universe, and is actually the action that affects the chains of cause and effect in such a way that it creates the most benefit for everyone and everything throughout the universe. And just to keep things relatable here on planet Earth at the very least, right? And so to me, that's a way to kind of tap into and express the Tao, which is like, the point of maximum balance, maximum coherence, maximum flow, harmony, like all these qualities that we like aspire for. That's what flow and flow consciousness specifically offers. And we can live from that place. We actually are doing the most that we possibly can in that moment to move humanity forward, towards a higher level of functioning. So these things are really, they seem kind of esoteric and abstract, but when you really distill it down to like the core thing that we need to do, it actually becomes very practical and leveraged and impactful.
Boy, let me just underscore and highlight that here for a moment, because I'm just so in agreement. Humanities Team is a nonprofit organization, and our focus at its largest level is making conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. And not that we think we as a nonprofit can do that at all, but just to be extending that invitation, standing, Justin, with you, they're thought leaders all over the world, committing their lives to conscious living. And as you mentioned, when we come into this conscious flow, when we come into the fullness of consciousness, and not that there's any perfection or excellence. You and I were talking a moment ago, we're still on a journey. This is a journey. There's no like just there. It's just a staircase that we're climbing. But as we climb the staircase and come into flow and into access to wisdom and support, and what you're saying is kind of that premium spot to be in the Tao, then our lives are so incredibly fruitful. I mean, the true definition of prosperity is here now. And not only that, which by the way is very different than a lot of people that are new to the conscious journey have the thought that, I need to sacrifice. If I'm going to take this conscious journey, this is going to be a sacrifice. I'm going to give things up. And nothing could be further from the truth. No, we are not giving up. We're receiving. I mean, we're just opening ourselves to other people and the universe, the divine, to receive the gifts of life. And we could, I know, talk, at some length about that. But also, very importantly here, is we all can see the existential crisis here on the earth. That there's a great deal of concern by parents everywhere. How are my kids going to grow up? How are my grandkids going to grow up? What's the opportunity for future generations on the planet? And here's the thing, the solution is literally right under our nose. It's right here, right now. It is this conscious living thing, because where we live this way, come into the fullness of consciousness, we actually don't even know how to any longer treat the earth like a refrigerator, or to have no concern for social injustice among humanity, etc. We could go down the list. When we're conscious, we understand, we see our connection, and we become responsible to those around us, which is what mature people do when they're connected. And then we engage in positive action. And it's another thing that mature people do. There's connection equals responsibility equals positive action. And then voila, where we're all doing this together, holding hands and hearts around the world, we create this new world where we're serving life first, essentially. And it doesn't mean there's not a place for business. I'm a business person by background, as Justin is. Business actually flourishes when it's conscious, right? Your businesses are conscious, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the main ways forward for humanity, is that we have to find a way to make it cheaper to do good than to do bad. This is in a lot of my really deep probing into how we can shift things is actually economics and business are really at the core of a lot of the problems that we're facing. I got a degree in environmental science and environmental studies, studying sustainability and environmental economics and all these different things. And it was very obvious that because of externalities, which are basically not pricing in the damage we're doing to the planet, to humans, to all life, into the cost of goods, it artificially makes the plastic bag that you get at the supermarket seem really inexpensive, when if you factored all these negative externalities into it, it would be quite a bit more expensive than a biodegradable alternative. But because they're not in that price, it makes this thing that's not really good for the planet seem a lot cheaper, and people tend to buy what's cheaper for a lot of reasons. And so you have this vicious cycle that just accelerates all the damage that we're doing to the planet. And same thing with like social media platforms and technology. They're not optimizing for what makes people feel good. They're optimizing to make as much money as possible for shareholders. And so we're optimizing for the wrong things on a business level. And also, before we really like wake up into more consciousness or flow, we're optimizing for the wrong things in our everyday life, if our goal is to be fulfilled and happy and nourished and spiritually aware and connected and all these different things. And so, that's a big crux of our work. And one of the videos I have on the platform, it's about optimizing your brain and reality for flow, is all about this. Is like how to understand where you want to put your focus, where you want to put your time and energy into making shifts in your life, such that they leverage out really hugely into your experience and making your life much better on a lot of different levels. And so if we could just start doing that collectively, in the business world, if we can start doing it personally, like this is how we make the shift. I think that a lot of times, humanity is waiting for like the next Jesus to come through and like just scoop us up and save us and just convince everybody that, whatever they need to be convinced over, or influence the power structures to make change. That it's like, this is the Aquarian age. This is the age of community. The guru age is coming to an end, and it's up to all of us now, I think, to embody these principles and to make the shifts that we need to make. Like that's how we're going to get a sustainable future, not following, like sheep, some enlightened person anymore. Like we have to become enlightened, each and every one of us,
Absolutely. Boy, you're so right. Thich Nhat Hanh said the next Buddha is community. So and he was so right about that. So this is why we're doing this program, is it's not so Justin and I can just yak about what Justin's doing. It's very important work, but it's actually for you, the viewer, so that all of us are just standing on this level playing field, living consciously, joining hands and hearts around the world, creating conscious businesses, reversing these patterns that Justin was just talking about, which are easy to reverse actually. It literally, conscious living is right under our nose. It's ironic that it's so fulfilling for us personally to live consciously, and then to just join hands with others around the world. Which is why I know that we'll be successful in this. We've got a long journey though. We're not on a pace today to, in 18 years, be living consciously all over the planet. So there's a lot of work to do. Well, let's go to, you mentioned your one of your programs, Justin, and these two programs are excellent. They're fantastic. They're on the Humanity Stream Plus platform. Not only are they on the platform, but there's a trending section right at the top, and you'll see both of Justin's program on these trending educational programs that are new to the platform. So let's go take a look now at the first one. It's called How to Optimize Your Brain and Reality for Expanded States of Consciousness and Flow. This is a little 2-minute section. We're going to go look at it on camera here together, and then Justin and I are going to come back and talk about it. Here we go.
Now, I talked about consistency, and I also talked about the length of time you practice in a given session. So there's basically what I call the rate of decay of the brainwave state post-meditation. So the longer you spend meditating, the longer it takes for you to return to beta consciousness, right? To the beta brainwave state. So basically, if you spend, and this is getting a little bit heady now, but I would say there's a ratio of about like 1:30 to 1:50 on average, okay? Meaning that for every minute of meditation you do, you get 30 minutes of persistence, or a 30x length of persistence of the brainwave state that you enter into per unit of time of meditation, right? So let me give you another example. Like, let's say that you meditate for 1 hour and you get into a beautiful, alpha theta state. Then for 30 hours, that alpha theta state is going to persist for 30 hours approximately. And over time, it will slowly start to decay until you return back to whatever, your resting brainwave state is, based on how your consciousness is tuned, based on the environments that you've been exposed to in your lifestyle habits over your entire life, right? If you're a monk meditating every day, well, your baseline is going to be alpha theta. So it doesn't matter as much if you're meditating in that moment or not. Okay. But if you've grown up in a city and you've just started meditating and you've basically been attuned to beta wave enhancing frequencies your entire life, and in beta wave enhancing environments your entire life, if you meditate for an hour, you go into alpha theta wave spectrum, it'll last for about 30 hours, and then you'll start to come back down. And if you don't keep meditating consistently, eventually you'll return back to beta wave consciousness, and then that's where you will rest, because that's what your brain is wired to at its default.
Wow. Well, certainly a strong reason to meditate here as you get in. I haven't heard that science before, Justin. That must be part of your institute thing, where you're doing this 30 to 1 and coming out with this research. It's fascinating. So this is came from Justin's program. It's called How to Optimize Your Brain and Reality for Expanded States of Consciousness and Flow. This is on the Humanity Stream Plus platform. Where did this research come from? And I assume you must be a meditator that's really taking full advantage of the research that you share, huh, Justin?
Yeah, so that's pretty empirical versus like having done a controlled double-blind study, or even like a meta-analysis of different brainwave states from long-term or short-term meditators. I've been meditating pretty much every day for about 16 years. And so that's spoken from a lot of personal direct experience. and also being in community with other meditators and talking to people and hearing about their direct experience, and just and then synthesizing a lot of like principles of neuroscience, like Hebbian neuroscience, of how the brain rewires in response to behavior and lifestyle and environment and stuff like that. So a lot of what we do at the Institute is very much on like the empirical theoretical end of the spectrum, because we're studying things and developing trainings and wanting to land in a lot of these cutting edge tools and that science is just starting to understand, but that we know from our direct experience. Like there's countless people who have put intuition front and center, put meditation front and center in their lives, and derived enormous benefit from it, And so we know anecdotally that this is a positive thing, that it has benefit. But the hard science that, academics like refuse to speculate beyond doesn't always exist. So we have to synthesize what we know based on the current hard science understanding to fill that gap and to help people understand just how and why these things work. And so, there's a lot of preamble for that clip. That's towards the end of the talk, and there's a lot of interesting things I talk about beforehand to really help support that statement. But I mean, it's true. If the more frequently and often you meditate, the more it anchors you into higher states of consciousness, and the more it anchors you into flow, because it consistently puts you in these expanded brainwave states that we see in all the enlightened masters that we've studied their brains, and all the monks who meditate constantly for 20 years and are the happiest people on earth. They're constantly in gamma and theta, alpha, border, and all these other brainwave states. And so you can do that yourself. I mean, you can start to tap into that just by consistently meditating. And that's something that we know for sure, even though like the hardcore science of granularly how this happens is still, TBD. So.
Yeah, wow. Well, fascinating. And as you mentioned, so it was the end of this program. This is a 2-video series, this program. It's called How to Optimize Your Brain and Reality for Expanded States of Consciousness and Flow. Such an important topic. And we selected this for a recent watch party. In fact, there are questions pouring in that we're going to get to here in a little bit, Justin. Some of them relating to the watch party where you were going through things. These are fantastic online programs. The Humanities Stream Plus has actually got hundreds of these conscious programs. It's a revolutionary streaming platform. There are other brand new programs on the platform where we actually add programs every week. Last year we put 46 new programs on the platform. One of the programs that we're just finishing, we had Nassim Haramein with us yesterday. We're just finishing this Forbidden Science program that gets into his unified field theory. And the program we're launching right now is called Discover Your Soul's Purpose. And that's with Michael Bernard Beckwith and Neil Donald Walsh. But as you can see, we're scanning the site Humanities Stream Plus. So for a little more than $1 a day, you gain access to hundreds of these transformational education programs. When you go into View Catalog, which is, and then start scrolling like this, you can literally scroll all day. There are hundreds of programs on this platform, and as a nonprofit, we believe the biggest thing that we can be doing in today's world is just making this platform as affordable as possible, translating it into foreign languages. We're just about done translating the master classes into Spanish. We're just looking at a project to translate them into French. We're going to translate it into all of the major languages, and then just continue to bring the price down to make this affordable for every home in every region of the world, in every language, in every faith tradition. Because we believe when we talk about making conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040, that's a big lift. And Justin and I were talking just before this program, when we talk about conscious living, it's not like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 things. There are so many dimensions to it. Healing the trauma in our lives, and bringing higher love into our relationships. Here we're talking about bringing expanded flow into our life. I could go on. Literally, there are thousands of topics that allow us to really embody the fullness of conscious living. So, and then we have live events that we call it Humanity Stream Plus, because the mentoring that we do is live. We had Nassim Haramein with us live yesterday. live last night, Michael Bernard Beck with Neil Donald Walsh on a program. We're live right now with Justin Faerman. So there are many live events here, many community events, watch parties, mentoring kinds of things that we couple with these hundreds of programs. And the whole idea behind all of it was, what are the things we can do to support people on this conscious journey? I'll just say one more thing, and then we're going to go back over to Justin. We're looking now, we're just reaching out to our faculty about starting to give free subscription access to oppressed environments and where there's also financial poverty. So we're starting with those that are incarcerated, where we can give access to Humanity Stream Plus to people that are incarcerated and that are conscious and that want to further their conscious journey, and they don't have a way of doing that from a prison system. So a lot more about that later. Okay, back here with Justin. So Justin, that was really powerful. Let's go take a look at this other clip that we've got. This is a 3.5-minute clip, and it's called The 4 Levels and 5 Dimensions of Healing, the Keys to Unlocking Your Full Potential. So let's take a look at this one.
Why is healing so important? Well, healing's so important because we're actually creating our reality in real time every second of every day. And when you understand how that process works, then it starts to make more sense where healing comes in. And so there's 3 different levels that we're creating our reality on. And I'm only going to talk about 2 of them, and somewhat briefly here, because I really want to reserve most of the time to go into the framework here. So just know that if you want a deeper download on this is something that we have a free masterclass training all about on our website, flowconsciousnessinstitute.com. So if you want the full download on this little snippet that I'm going to share on creating your reality and healing and all of that, go check that out, and you can get a much more in-depth dive into that. But for the sake of this live here, we're creating our reality on 3 different levels. And the first 2 levels I'm going to talk about, which really relate to healing most strongly, are the level of personal reality and then the level of external reality. So on the level of personal reality, right, this is the first level. We're creating our experience by how we perceive the events that we're experiencing, or we perceive the things that are happening to us. Nothing's actually happening to us. We're always creating the circumstances, but nevertheless, how we perceive what's happening to us determines the emotional state that we're in. So it affects our reality by affecting our emotional state. And we're also creating our reality on a personal level by how we perceive what's happening to us, okay? So how that works is that when something happens in our lives, it comes into, we perceive it, it comes into our mind, into our consciousness, and then it's filtered through our belief structures, our perception. And that tells us how to react to the thing that we're experiencing, and if we should be scared or if we should be happy or joyful or neutral or whatever. Now, everybody has different perceptions and beliefs. Even though we can be experiencing the exact same thing, we all have different perceptions or beliefs, so we all have a different experience of it. And there's a famous saying that we don't experience reality as it is, we experience reality as we are. We don't see life, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And this is referring to the fact that we're pulling everything through this perceptual filter, and that's determining our emotional experience. And whatever our perception and our emotional experience are of something, that's our experience of the reality of it. And so if we have beliefs like I'm not good enough, or the world is a dangerous place, then that's going to cause us to interpret things in a way that creates self-doubt or creates fear, emotional reactions of fear. But on the other hand, if we believe that we can achieve or accomplish anything we put our minds to, or that the world is a safe place, right, then we're going to feel a lot more trust and happiness. We're going to have more self-confidence. We're going to have richer, fuller lives. We'll probably travel more, have a more rich experience, rich set of different experiences, right? So same circumstances, we're experiencing life, but with these 2 different perceptual filters, we get completely different personalized experiences of it. Okay, so this is the first level.
Fantastic. Yeah, really, that was just a short little clip from this program. It's called the 4 Levels and 5 Dimensions of Healing. The Keys to Unlocking Your Full Potential, Justin Faerman, one of the 2 new programs on the Humanities Stream Plus platform. So that was quite valuable, just getting into just how life really works, where there's not like some objective reality where it's just one thing that's happening that we all see and feel, but we've got these filters, as you mentioned, around our own subjective reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, like I was saying in the video, we experience everything through these filters. So even though we might both be looking at a tree or like a red car driving by, based on our past experiences with those things, it's going to determine how we feel. Like if you climbed trees as a kid and had a great experience, and it was like one of the most joyful experiences in your childhood, like the tree is probably going to invoke really positive emotions and you're going to feel great. And if this didn't happen to me, but if I had fallen off a tree when I was a kid and broke my arm and it was traumatic, then trees might scare me. And so it's just a tree, it's a neutral thing to some extent. Here's the tree having its best tree life. And yet we're each experiencing it so differently. And a giraffe would experience a tree very differently than, a squirrel would, and so on and so forth. So any form of consciousness is always perceiving its environment through the filters of its past conditioning and its past beliefs. And that affects our personal reality. I mean, what is our reality? It's our experience of life in our consciousness, in our mind, in our sensory apparatus. And so we all have completely different experiences of reality. No 2 are exactly the same at all, based on our past experience. And this is why I was talking about in the video about healing, that healing one definition of it is like shifting things that engender suffering into things that engender flow or engender joy or peace or inspiration or all these like higher emotional qualities. And so a limiting belief is a belief that creates suffering on some level, that it reinforces pain and suffering. And a positive belief is something that reinforces these qualities I just described, these more like enlightened qualities, for lack of a better term. So healing is the identification of the limiting beliefs and the suffering they engender, and then the conscious choice to shift that into something that engenders flow or any of these other things on this wavelength. And so the same can be said about emotional states and trauma and a lot of other aspects of our life, right? But in this context of this talk, it was specifically about beliefs. I go into talk about emotions next, but it's the same essential shift,
Yeah, fascinating. And this is, as I mentioned, surfacing lots of questions here. So let me just start bringing some in. So one of them is from Andy, and she says, what are some of the methods you use to, quote, keep track of your progress in healing?
Yeah, I mean, we recommend in the programs that we teach at the Institute that people track the specific beliefs and they're shifting in the specific emotional patterns that they identify, because it's important in your larger journey to not duplicate work, and to 2, to understand when something new is coming up, because to really be masterful at this process of inner work, you kind of need to become your own psychologist. This is part of the journey into consciousness. You get a degree in psychotherapy and psychology and depth psychology because you must become intimately familiar with the contents of your own heart and mind. And so by documenting your process, it will help you greatly on that journey. And I can explain why if anyone's curious, but trust me, and having taken thousands of people through this process and been on this journey for nearly 20 years myself, it is very helpful to do that, and it will serve you in many ways. And so, honestly, you can use a journal, you can make it more formal. I do it all on my computer now, so I can easily search through things. I actually recommend that people, if you do use a journal, you might want to have it transcribed, or you might also want to type things up, because I can actually go in and like query my consciousness. I can't you can search Google for things, because I've taken so many notes over the years about everything that I've processed and I've worked through. I can go in and search and find things that I've cleared and know where my status of progress is around that. And there's not like a yearly analysis where I go through anything like that. It's just a loose notes that I have on my progress, on my journey, so I can keep myself from duplicating work. And oftentimes knowing where you've been is very helpful in understanding where you're going, and you can see patterns and trends in your inner work and stuff like that. So, let's get into the weeds a bit. But if I know this platform attracts people that are deeper on their path. So if that's you, then you definitely want to keep a log and a journal of these kind of things.
Yeah, and that is just a great idea in general, and anyway, isn't it? Because there's so many thoughts that can come to you during this conscious journey of things that new insights, things that one wants to explore. Barbara Marks Hubbard, you surfaced her name just a little bit ago. She was a big proponent of keeping journals. She had stacks and stacks and stacks of journals, so it's a great practice. Justin, for me, when just this whole state of flow thing just is so healing in and of itself, which is kind of the words I was trying to put around it earlier when we were talking about it. There's just, it's almost like there's some beam, that is connecting me and the one, which is all of it. And so a different me emerges. I let go of conceptions I have of I need to be like this, or I let those things go. I let go of I observe, like if I'm not being loving and with somebody, I feel that on a pretty deep level. So I'm almost like in this beam, I don't want to use sci-fi language like tractor beam, but it's almost like I'm in this place that just is self-guiding, self-supporting. It's healing in and of itself to just be in this state of flow. Does that register with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's many ways we can do healing. You can do a focused healing modality or some kind of psychotherapeutic process, but we can also be healed through our direct experience and choices we make and actions we take. And to me, being in a state of flow is in and of itself healing, because you are tapping into this state of super consciousness. In spiritual traditions, you might know it as, someone might describe it as the soul or your higher self. And just the raw insight and clarity we get from that experience is often very healing. We get a taste of a new way of being. We get a taste of what it's like to really live in these, expanded states of consciousness. And that's transformative in and of itself. So absolutely, being in a state of flow, living in flow consciousness are inherently transformational and don't necessarily require you to always just be sitting on a couch or a bed or something doing inner work. Just your direct experience will change your life.
Yeah, and to that, gosh, let me just say, even right now, so we just take a few breaths, right now in this very moment, where we're just feeling this whole state of flow that Justin is describing in so many ways, where we can just feel it right here, right now. And this is such an important part of this whole conscious journey, because we're just up in our head, and it's this whole thinking thing, an American dream thing, the age-old dream thing. Then all of these other things happen that Justin was describing, where we've got reverse patterns going, where we're grabbing extra bags and treating the earth like a refrigerator and all of that. And we just, in my experience, we can't do that actually, right? Where we're just breathing and coming into this flow with each other and the planet. So this is why we're grateful to have Justin here with us. We haven't had a guest come on to talk about this very important topic or create online programs around this very important topic. So let me, there are other questions that are here. Let me get to a few others. So let's see. Karen says, hi, Justin. So she was present at the watch party on Tuesday that you were part of with Adam. And she says, during the watch party on Tuesday, you spoke briefly about 4 questions we can ask ourselves if we're triggered. Would you please talk more about those? I think yeah. Do you want to, you probably know what she's referring to. Do you want to talk about that, Justin?
Yeah, I'll give a little context too for everyone that wasn't there. But we were, you showed a clip actually that we watched from the 4 levels and 5 dimensions of healing, where it was that specific clip about limiting beliefs that she's referring to, because a big part of making that shift from unconscious limiting belief suffering to positive belief flow state is identifying the limiting belief itself. This is the first crucial piece. If you don't have awareness of the limiting beliefs that are in your mind and in your consciousness, then you're at effect from them, period, hard stop. And so you first need to become aware of them so that you can understand what they are, and then, make the shift into positive territory. And so there are questions that we call mindful questioning. This is like a process that we teach in our level 1 training to help people identify these limiting beliefs, and it consists of 3 questions. And so whenever you're having like a negative thought, or there's an emotional trigger coming up, so maybe you're doing great, having a great day, somebody says something happens, and all of a sudden you're in fear or anxiety, and then all the negative thoughts that spin off from that, or you just notice yourself thinking a negative thought about something, and maybe pretty innocuous. You might just notice yourself judging somebody or judging some situation. So anything that's not like you were describing earlier, Steve, being in this state of love and gratitude and appreciation and compassion, whenever you're noticing anything other than that coming up into your awareness, there's a good chance that there's a limiting belief or a negative thought there. And then when you notice that, what you want to ask yourself is one or more of these 3 questions, which are, what must I believe is true in order to be having this thought? What am I making this mean about myself? And just straight up, why? Why am I having this thought? And you can continue to ask these questions, because you ask that question to your mind, it will feed you an answer. And then you can keep using those questions to probe deeper and deeper into your mind, and it will reveal more and more limiting beliefs. And you might eventually get to the root, which is usually what's creating all of it. And so these questions are very powerful because they help excavate these unconscious parts of the psyche that are creating suffering and taking us out of flow. And then once you're aware of them, like I was saying, you just make, the tweaks necessary to start shifting into flow. So very powerful questions. And I'm happy to type those out too, if it's helpful for people, or there's some way we can capture it for everyone.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Well, if you do that and send us that, Justin, we'll go and add it in the comments section here where people have asked questions on social media. And when you talk about these limiting beliefs too, there are all these limiting beliefs about life, about sex, about money, just to name a few. Limiting beliefs here, there, and everywhere, because most of us grew up with these conceptions about these things that don't support us. So to really kind of take the time to look at them, understand them, and then reverse hack them, is critically important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hugely important. And I don't want to make the journey sound overwhelming, but we have hundreds, if not thousands, of limiting beliefs that are waiting for us to get through, to really emerge into our full potential and these peak states of being that we see, that these enlightened masters that grace the planet from time to time, to really get into that space. And so, that can sound overwhelming and disheartening, but just know first and foremost that every time you let go of one of those limiting beliefs, your life will get proportionally better. Your suffering will go down, your happiness, your abundance, your joy will all increase, your flow will increase permanently. So that journey is not a journey of suffering. It's every step you take, there's less suffering and there's more flow and there's more of these things that we crave. So it's more like a game you can play with yourself, where how good can your life get through this process of inner work. And another thing too is that it's not like you're going to granularly clear every single belief necessarily. Sometimes you'll find these core limiting beliefs that are anchoring in like 10, 20, or 30 other ones. And when you let go of that, you have a major shift and these other ones just evaporate. So it's a very nonlinear journey. And it gets to some degree easier the further you go. So, but there is a lot there. I mean, I'm over the last 2 years, I've excavated hundreds of limiting beliefs and emotional patterns. And this is after 10 years of going very deep into the process. So there's a lot there, but my life is incredible. And every single year that was better than the last one for the entire time I've been on that journey, exponentially better, So it's like, what else could I possibly be doing now? Every time something comes up, I get excited because I know my life is going to get that much better. And so instead of it being like a burden, it's like actually, the light at the end of the tunnel getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's so true. And such a stark contrast from where there's a financial wealth only. I came from Silicon Valley, where I was, had an opportunity to be around a lot of that wealth, and it was a mirage thing where you kind of get to that financial number that you'd held out, and then you double it, and then you get to that, and then you double it again, and just kind of walking and walking and walking. There's no there. And then by contrast, what you're sharing is so true in conscious living, where we do this inner work, where we live in the state of flow. Wow, prosperity in its many different forms surface, and our relationships just become so much better and stronger, and just our sense of joy about life and our ways we can contribute. All of that just surfaces. So, okay, let me get to another question here for you, Justin. This is from Cactus, who says, "Thank you for taking my question. My parents are into your work. Where's a good starting point for someone like me who knows very little about the flow?"
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great resources on our website, Flow Consciousness Institute. There's a lot of great things out and about on the web about flow states, and our work definitely overlaps quite a bit with that, but we're mostly focused on flow consciousness. And so our work is kind of the home of knowledge and understanding of that, out in the collective right now. So there's a lot of great resources on our website. I mean, definitely check out these two programs on Humanity Stream. They're a really great intro into some of the aspects of flow consciousness. We have a free masterclass on our website that's goes really deep into it. There's articles there, so a couple papers I've written if you'd like to get into a little bit deeper territory that really help describe what it is. Because it to be fair, flow consciousness is a little bit hard to describe because it's like the Tao, and the Tao is the thing that cannot be named. It's a bit of a paradox in and of itself. And so, we can only talk about it in more general terms. But as you start to read more about it and, watch videos and listen to talks I've done and Jackie, my co-founder, has done, you'll start to get a handle on what it is that we're talking about, and you'll have your own intuitive understanding of it. And then, yes, that is flow consciousness. That's what we teach and we talk about.
All right, here's a question from Bob. He says, how do you know when you are successfully reaching theta brain state during meditation?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bob. And you'll feel it. When you make a shift into a deeper level of brainwave state or higher level, depending on which direction in terms of frequency you're moving. So theta is a slowing down of our brainwave state from beta, which is where we're typically operating in waking consciousness. And so you'll feel that somatically in your body. You will feel the relaxation. And I'm describing it how I feel it. Everyone's totally unique, but in general, it's a more meditative, relaxed state of consciousness. So you'll feel yourself shifting. You'll feel the thoughts or the sensations or the awareness in your mind slowing down and shifting. A lot of times when people get into theta too, it's a very intuitive state. So it's not unusual to have spiritual or mystical experiences there, or have really profound insight come through. So these are some of the characteristics and qualities that I have or different people have described. And so that can help you attune to it. But I actually literally, and I talk about this in the video, I believe, I literally feel like different sensations move through my brain because the brainwave states can be localized to regions in the brain. So example, you can have alpha in one part of your brain and theta in another part. And I'll actually feel tingling and sensation in different parts of my brain as they shift into different levels of coherence or different brainwave states. And it's pleasurable and very noticeable. So pay attention for those.
Nice. So here's a question from Raina. She says, how do you give yourself space for the difficult emotions that come up during the process moving towards living in flow?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of this is going to depend on your lifestyle and how much free space you have in your day-to-day life. Part of it is making space in your consciousness for it, regardless of how you live your life and, what your daily demands are. Whether you have kids or a full-time job or you're on sabbatical or you're an entrepreneur, whatever it is, those all a lot of different amounts of free space for things. But regardless of what you're doing on that level, internally in your mind, just being mindful and slowing down to notice these shifts in our thinking patterns and our emotional state, that's the most important level. Because even if you are doing something that's really demanding and very busy, and I mean, I'm no stranger to being busy. I've been running multiple companies for many years. Like, I'll catch myself, even sometimes even I'm on like a talk like this, and I'm speaking and on the spot, and I'll notice a limiting belief just came up, and I'll make a mental note of it, and I will come back to that when I have free space because it's my priority, and I will write it down. And if I can do a process in that moment to shift it, I will, if I have enough time. And otherwise, if I don't, I will come back to it later on. So the ideal that we teach in the program is something comes up, and in that moment, it's coming up because it's ready to go in that moment. And if you can do a healing process right then and there, that's ideal. But if not, you just document it, and you can grab it later on at whatever point you have some free space to do that, and you have the right environment and wherewithal.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Justin. And so here's a question from Khatib. It's probably the last question we'll be able to get to. And Khatib says, is there specific nervous system programming that's involved in this?
Yeah, definitely. One of the unique things that we teach at the Institute is when we work with beliefs, emotions, trauma, memories, whatever it is that, might be creating suffering, we work on 4 different levels: mental, emotional, energetic, and physical. And I get into this in the 4 levels and 5 dimensions of healing talk pretty deeply. So I've only got a minute or 2 here, but check that out if you really want more of a deeper dive into that. And so the nervous system corresponds most closely to the physical or the emotional wavelength. And so, yes, you definitely want to work on that level. There's things that you can do through emotional healing processes, or different psychotherapeutic processes to calm your nervous system and to help it reset, because the nervous system is most susceptible to, in neuroscience terms, Hebbian wiring, which is like our consistent lifestyle habits condition it to operate in a certain way. And so the nervous system needs a lot of TLC. It needs a lot of like care and calming and relaxing so that it can reset into a new pattern and ideally stay there. So this is the area in healing that often needs the most care. And so we're definitely very focused on it. It's an important place to work, and there's some really great tools to help that along.
Fantastic. Well, Justin, I told you the hour was going to go fast. Here we are already at the end of an hour. Boy, thank you so much for being on this live program with us. And again, Justin has 2 brand new online programs on our Humanity Stream Plus platform. They're how to optimize for brain and reality for expanded states of consciousness and flow, and the 4 levels of 5 dimensions of healing, the keys to unlocking your full potential. And the Humanity Stream Plus platform, for people who don't know, it's a conscious streaming platform, extends all over the world. So Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Google Pay, all of these devices bring in, and services bring in this this educational programming. So my wife and I like to use Roku, not just be sitting in front of the computer watching these programs, which of course we can. Roku, if you didn't know this, you can, for $12 on Amazon, get a little Roku device. And then you can connect it to any TV in your house and sit and watch these programs. It's like kale, or kombucha. Once you take a sip or have a bite, you want more. The transformational educational programming is just off the charts. And when you compare it to like watching news or television or even mindless entertainment, wow, I mean, that's all I can say. For starters, watch these 2 full programs that Justin Faerman has placed on the Stream Plus platform, and you'll see what I mean. You're going to be digging for other content as you see how rich these programs are. They're great contributors to living consciously. So again, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. I greatly appreciate it, brother. And then let me just share next week's program here. I think we can put up something on the screen. So it's with Jonathan and Andy Goldman. They're pioneers in sound healing. World Sound Healing Day is just around the corner. It's actually on Valentine's Day is World Sound Healing Day. Jonathan likes to share, when you heal yourself, you heal the planet. And when you heal the planet, you heal yourself, which is what oneness is, right? So we'll be with Jonathan and his lovely wife, Andy, next week. be sure to join us. We're always here live, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And hey, everybody, have a fantastic weekend. Justin, I look forward to having you back here on our program again with us soon. Thanks for your many contributions to a conscious world.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Likewise, I'm glad to be here with you and be on future streams. Take care, everyone.
Sounds good. Peace and blessings, everybody. Love and peace and blessings. Thanks for being with us on this Friday afternoon. And thank you. I should have. I usually bring in my team. Shoot, Jim, do you want to still? Let's do a camera shot here of the studio. That's Jim over there with me in our studio. Jim Gray. Jim, thank you for making it so easy for us. And I'll just say Karen Gordon and Dee Meyer and Garth Catterall, Noah. So all of the team behind the scenes that made this possible. Huge thank you to them. And Justin, you probably have a team we should be shouting out to too. Is there an assistant or two we should be naming here?
Well, yeah, we should name Jackie Nechtel, my co-founder at the Flow Consciousness Institute. She's an amazing human being, and I'm honored to know her and do this with her. And at the magazine, Megan McDonald, business partner in love as well, and then my amazing assistant Diana, who's just a gem that I'm so lucky to have found her. So thanks, all of y'all.
Fantastic. Thank you, teams. Here, we appreciate it, and we'll be back with you live next week. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Love and peace and blessings.